Good morning, sir. Today, Shivan and I will present our PBT2. This website is all about simple registration form built from using HTML, CSS, and PHP. It allows the user to perform various actions related to student registration. Uh, student registration. This website allows the user to enter student's name and students' action to perform, such as creating a folder, creating a file, deleting a folder, and deleting an file. The PHP code handles this action and provides appropriate feedback to the user. So now I will explain the source code for this PHP file. This section of the coding is responsible for defining the style for the body element. It has background color, set background color light gray, and font family as Arial, sans serif, and display flags, align item to center, justify content also center. The height of the frame is 100 vh, which means sets the height to the body to 100% of the viewport height. This ensures the body takes up full height of the viewport. Then margin 0. Now I explain about this section of the code. So first the container. The container set the style for the container element that hold the form. The width is 400 pixel. Set the width to the container to 400 pixel. Padding is 20 pixel around the container. Background color is set to white. The um, border radius is applies an 8 pixel border radius, giving the container rounded corners. The box shadow is 10 pixel RGBA. Added a box shadow effect to the container, providing subtle visual depth. And the H1, which is set the size of the heading element H1 within the container. Margin top 0. And the form, set the style for the form element within the container. Align the form container to the left side and add 20 pixel top margin to create spacing between the heading and the form. Then label. Set the style for the label element within the form. Display block makes the label elements display as block elements, allowing them to occupy their own line. The margin bottom 10 pixel adds the 10 pixel bottom margin to create spacing between labels. Then the input type text area. Set style for input text input field and text area within the form. The width is 100 percent. Set width of the input field to 100% of their container, making them fill the available space. Then the padding 8 pixel. Add 8 pixel of padding within the input field. The border 1 pixel solid. Set 1 pixel solid border within a light gray color for the input field. Then the border radius 4 pixel. The 4 pixel border radius to the input field, giving the rounded corner. Then the box sizing. Border box include the padding and border in the total width of the rounded corners. Include the padding and the border in the total width of the input fields. Margin top 20 pixel. Add 20 pixel bottom margin, create spacing between the input fields. Then the input radio input type checkbox. Set the style for radio button and checkbox within the form. And the margin right 5 pixel. Add 5 pixel right margin to create spacing between the radio button and the checkbox. Then the input type submit. So for the submit, set style for the submit and reset button within the form. The padding is 10 pixel, 20 pixel. Add 10 pixel of padding vertically and 20 pixel of padding horizontally to the button. And the background color is green shade. Then set text color of the button to white. And the border none. Remove the border of the buttons. The border radius 4 pixel. Apply 4 pixel border radius to the button, giving them a rounded corner. And the cursor pointer changes the mouse cursor to a pointer when hovering over the button. Then the input for submit, hover input, reset. Set the style for the submit and reset button when they are being hovered over by the mouse. Background color is slightly dark green shade. Now I'm going to explain this section of the code, which is the PHP section. So the first line is the if else statement. So if is set post submit, this line checks if the form has been submitted by checking if the submit button was clicked. If it was, the code inside the if statement will be executed. The comments, the lines inside, student name equal inset. This line retrieves the value of input field with the name student name from the form submission. It used the ternary operator, the question mark sign, to assign the value to the student name variable. If the student name field is not set, it will assign an empty string to the student name. Then to the folder name equal the path. So this line defines the path of the folder where the registration file will be stored. In this example, it's set to SAMP SAMP htdoc PBT2 registration, but you might need to adjust it to match the actual folder path on your server. And the fourth one is the action equal post action. This line retrieves the value of the selected action from the submission. The action is defined by radio button input with the name action. Okay, now the explanation for the line action equal create file. If the selected action is create folder, the folder specified in folder name doesn't already exist. File exists, no file exists, and it successfully create with mkdir folder name. The code inside the if statement executed. The code echoes manages the code echoes the messages for the code pop-up a message box folder is successfully created. The code will bring a text message says folder is successfully created to indicate that the folder has been created. Then the action create new file. So in this section, if the selected action is create file, the file and the student name variable not empty, the code inside the statement if statement is executed. It generate the file name by combining the folder name, the lowercase version of the student name, and the file extension to txt. If the file is unsuccessfully created with fopen method, the student name is written to the following using file put content. The code pop-ups a message text says student is successfully registered to indicate the file has been created and the student is registered. Then the action for delete folder. So in the delete folder, if the selected action is delete folder, the code inside the if statement is executed. It checks if the folder specified in folder name exists as a directory using is dir folder name. If the folder is empty, uh, check using count glob folder name. The code pop-ups a message says registration folder is deleted to indicate the folder has been deleted. If the folder is not empty, it says registration folder is not empty. If the folder doesn't exist, it says registration folder does not exist. Then the action for delete file. For delete file, if the selected action is delete file, the student name variable not empty, the code inside the if statement is executed. It generates a file name by combining folder name, the lowercase version of student name, and the file extension is txt. If the file exists, it's deleted using unlinked file name. The code says a message file for student name is deleted to indicate the file has been deleted. If the file doesn't exist, it will say the student name file does not exist. If the student name is not provided or empty, it will say please enter the student name. Okay, and I'm going to explain this last section of the code. So this part of the coding represents the HTML form that allow user to input data and select action to perform. So the first line is form action, PHP echoes server, PHP self, method post. This line states the HTML form element. The action attribute is set to PHP echo server, PHP self, which means that the form will be submitted to the same page as is being displayed on. The method attribute is set to post, indicating the method attribute is set to post, indicating the form data will be sent using HTTP post method. Then label for student name. Then the second line is label for student name, which is called student name. Then the for attribute is to set student name, which associate the label with the input field that has the same ID value. Then the input type text ID student name. This line creates an input field of type text where user can enter the student name. The ID attribute is set to student name, which is used to associate the label with this input field. Now the select action. This line creates a paragraph element with the text select action. Then action option. The action options. Then the action options in this section. The following 4 lines create radio button input for different actions that user can select. Each input has a unique name attribute set to action, allowing only one option is to be selected at a time. The value attribute specifies the value that will be submitted when the form is submitted. Input type submit, name submit, value perform action. This line create a submit button. The name attribute is set to submit, which identifies this button when the form is submitted. Input type submit, name submit, value perform action. This line creates a submit button. The name attribute is set to submit, which identifies the button when the form is submitted. And the input type reset value reset. This line creates a reset button. The value attribute is to reset, which determines the text displayed on the button. Then the form is the closing line for the element, and div and the body. This line closes the div and the body elements respectively, and the HTML closes the entire HTML element. And that is for the source code explanation. Thank you. Now Shivan will talk about the output.
So this is the main page of the registration form. So we can see that the initial directory is empty. So first of all, we have to create a folder in the registration form. So then we have to enter any name. Then we have to enter the perform action to create a folder. So we can see that in the directory folder has been created. After that, we have to create a file which we can type any student name. Then you have to enter the perform action. So after that, we can see that another file has been added to the directory file. So now we have to enter the file name to delete the file. So after that, we can see that the file has been deleted. To delete the folder in the directory, we have to enter the folder name and enter the delete folder option in the registration form. After that, we can see that the folder has been deleted and the text will show up. So lastly, the account has been created to do the hosting, and this is the interface for the create hosting. So this is the certificate of the free web hosting area. So after that, we have to upload the PBT2 folder, and it will upload on the FileZilla. So finally, the PHP file has been created, hosted successfully.